Deep beneath the stacks of the New York Public Library, it's Brian and Eric Don't Belong Here, a weekly exploration of the strange, paranormal, and the macabre. Tonight, Eric and I sit down with Jordan Cline of Fireside Paranormal to talk about paranormal radio, ghost hunting, and growing up in haunted houses. There literally may not be a nicer guy on the paranormal scene than Jordan, so I'm not going to waste your time. I'm excited to just get right into it. Enjoy.
All right, and we're live with Jordan Cline from Fireside Paranormal. Jordan, how you doing, man?
Very good, very good. Thank you so much for having me out.
Yeah,
Thanks for being on.
Yeah. Before we dive in, you mentioned I think you were coming straight from the firehouse.
Yep. I'm with the fire department.
That's incredible.
How's that?
Yeah.
Today we were flushing hydrants, so we had to drive
very exciting.
It was heroes work, is what that was.
Eric and I, a couple of months ago at this point, we're doing the show. We were recording something not far away from my Brooklyn apartment, and we saw a bunch of firemen doing their job, and we felt like the dumbest human beings next to actual adults doing
deeply ashamed. we literally had a ghost box, and we were wandering.
So we're gonna huddle over this corner, see if we can find any ghosts.
Yeah, but Brian, this is actually our chance to be redeemed in the eyes of a firefighter who also is into the occult. Do your buddies at the firehouse, do they know about your podcast and your
yeah, a lot of them run it. I used to way back when I hosted a show called Whispers Radio, and I used to rent out the I don't know if you've ever heard the West Virginia State Penitentiary in Moundsville.
Yeah. Never been, but
yeah, well, it's like 20 minutes from my house. So I used to rent it out every year and host big events, and all the firefighter guys were there too.
Oh, that's cool. What would you do there? That's crazy.
We would do a ghost hunt. I actually, the last one we did, I brought in a demonologist from Rochester, Dwayne Claw.
Oh, hell yeah.
And he did a little presentation beforehand, and then he led a group through.
That's amazing. How can we get invites to the next one?
Hey, with prices going up now, whenever I can afford to rent that way out.
Yeah. The haunted penitentiary market is really just out of control these days.
Supply and demand.
Yeah, exactly.
Clearly, we need to get some penitentiaries haunted. We need to increase the.
Yeah, gas prices. How about ghost prices? But I'll cancel our show now.
Hey, I'm telling you, really, the paranormal tourism cost bracket right now is skyrocketing. Believe it or not.
Well, that's the market we need to get into, bud. Jordan, can you real fast give us a once over for anyone not familiar with you and your show? What's your deal? What's your show's deal?
All right. Well, my show is Fireside Paranormal Podcast. It's an interview-based show. I try to get folks from all spectrums of the paranormal, from ghosts to cryptids to UFOs to anything kind of strange and unusual, and talk about it. Interview-based. Yeah. So I have a guest come on each week. They say what they want to say. I usually have some authors on there too, some nonfiction, some fiction. So it's fun.
Hell yeah.
No, but I try to do a featured story every week as well. So I'll have some, the listeners will send in their own personal ghost story, or, hey, I saw Bigfoot, or, hey, I saw a UFO. And I play that, at the start of every episode. So.
Hell yeah. How did you get into the paranormal and that whole world in the first place? What caught your imagination?
Well, I mean, all right, so what got me into the paranormal, or what started me on like this?
Let's do real broad. Let's paranormal interest in the first place. Then we'll move into this.
As a kid, you're talking like Scooby-Doo.
Yeah,
Are You Afraid of the Dark? The Goosebumps books. I was a big fan of Weekly World News.
Okay. I have not thought of Weekly World News.
You're welcome.
Eric, are you familiar with Weekly World News?
No, I'm actually not. I'm not.
Actually, they'd be a fun. There's got to be some of those people around. That'd be a fun one to.
If they're trying to bring it back out. So if you go on like Twitter, and I think they have a Facebook too, where you can get some old magazines or a lot of digital copies. But it'd be like,
I remember.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It'd be like Bigfoot, ruin my wedding, or
and
like
he
always does.
Aliens, crazy stuff like that.
And it would just be on the stand in the grocery store. Like that's where I remember it. There was I remember I had a Bat Boy Found in Cave T-shirt.
Oh yeah, West Virginia.
That's the famous one. And I remember there was one that was talking about how the end of the world was coming. And as a kid, I can't tell the difference. It's on newsprint, so clearly this is an authoritative magazine. And I'm just like, Mom, we are in a situation.
Yeah, I wonder what happened to all of the tabloids. I remember at every supermarket there was like a lot of them, and you don't really see them
getting offended by it, so they put like the plastic covers over it there for a while. Like, it used to be you'd have like Weekly World News over here, right next to it, like Princess Diana wore green. What does that mean for the royal family?
Yeah.
But Eric, to answer your question, print media died.
I guess. You think they would hold on though? You know what I mean? Not a big research budget required. Yeah, you just hang out. I remember the National Enquirer very well. That was my hometown paper for sure.
What a fun! My head is just now going back to Weekly World News. I can't believe I forgot about that.
Eric, you need to go look it up, because really, the topics in themselves are the most ridiculous. Because it wouldn't be just like Bigfoot ruined my wedding. Then there would be like some byline like he didn't send the +1, or
yeah. Exactly.
I'm on a tangent now. We are going to do a whole show about Weekly World News. Jordan, if you would like to come back and
absolutely.
It's a great idea.
Weekly World News episode with us.
I would have the articles cut out. I would cut it all out, and I'd plaster my wall with it. Yeah, I was ridiculous. I love
this. Is great. So this is as like a little kid.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, going into my teenage years, you never lose the love.
That's right. What did your family think about all this?
Oh, they didn't care. It was them, and I hope I don't offend these people, because I'm about 99.9% chance they're not listening. But that and Amish people. I had pictures of Amish people up too, because I just found them fascinating.
They're kind of a cryptid in a way.
Where I grew up,
fascination.
Horrible. I can't believe I'm talking about this, but there was a theme park. I grew up in Maryland, and I was right on the border of PA, and it close to Lancaster, PA. And there was a theme park, and it was called Dutch Wonderland, and it's literally an Amish theme park.
Oh wow!
So like it has like now fire ride and all. It's just a bunch of Amish guys.
Is it like powered by how do they like steam powered?
I need to back up. I need a clarification. An amusement park for the Amish or like run by the Amish?
For us, by us, baby.
Got it.
No, us. No, everybody went. It was a big deal.
That's amazing. We've also learned, because we recently spoke to author J.W. Oker, and like we also talked about amusement parks. The amount of crossover, the Venn diagram of spooky stuff and amusement parks.
No,
I don't know what that is.
Scooby-Doo got it.
I guess that's true.
I guess that's right.
Something about creepy boardwalks, man. So all right, Jordan. So you Scooby-Doo. Before we move on from that, Goosebumps or Are You Afraid of the Dark? Which was better?
Oh man, I really loved Are You Afraid of the Dark? I really
that's the right answer, my friend.
But I never missed an episode.
It's scarier. It's definitely scarier.
Oh yeah. Like you
should right.
Still listen to the theme right now, and it'll give you goosebumps. I don't care how old you are.
I was always nervous for the last kid, in the trailer, the last kid who puts out the fire to leave. It's like, get out of there, man! You can't be the last one at the fire pit. You gotta go. That's crazy.
I'd be too chicken to be the last one. I'd be the first one out. I'm like, see you guys.
Yeah, forget that.
My mom's calling.
Yeah,
exactly.
Could the Midnight Society meet up before it gets dark in the woods? That would be great. That would be preferable.
Yeah, I like a midday society kind of situation.
Like ghosts are around during the day too, right? Not just at nighttime.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, exactly.
So, Jordan, all right, you're into spooky stuff as a kid. You got you're cutting out articles of weird world news alongside pictures of the Amish. How does that translate later into wanting to do a podcast about it?
All right, so fast forward several years. Me and my cousin, he wanted to, or he was in college. He was a smart guy, and he was doing a class on tourism, and he had to write a paper on tourism, and he drew paranormal tourism out of a hat, and that's what he wanted to do. And they were doing a ghost hunting 101 class at the Moundsville Penitentiary.
Oh wow!
So what better place to cut your teeth, right?
Yeah.
And he wasn't going by himself. He's like, I'm not going alone. You're coming with me. Sure, I got nothing to do.
A good cousin.
So he even offered to pay my way. So,
all right,
it's free. I can check it out. Well, it was awesome. I don't know if Eric, have you ever seen this place?
I don't know. I've never seen it.
A giant Gothic castle. They've used it in a lot of movies and things like that. It is fascinating to look at. And you get inside and it's just as fascinating. And then, it was shut down in like the 90s for cruel and unusual punishment.
Oh,
as
wow.
all haunted penitentiaries inevitably will be.
It's something magnificent. And you get in there and, you're learning how to use the tools, and here's a tape recorder, and here's dowsing rods, and here's all kinds of other stuff. We're like, okay. And we get into this area, and it's like the worst of the worst that they stuck there. And they're like, this is the worst person that was ever in this penitentiary. Here's her cell. So here's me. I'm like, okay, is there anybody here? And then we get voices, and I'm like, whoa,
oh,
what?
Wow.
Holy shit.
So, which is incredible, right? So then there's like one part where I'm like sitting there. I know you can't, for those listening, you can't see me, but I'm holding up an imaginary video camera. And, my cousin's like, here's this EMF detector, it makes this like, zzz, when something comes around. And I got the video camera. I couldn't hold my flashlight because I'm out of hands. He's like, just walk down this long hallway. And it's like the worst of the worst, it's North Hall. So got the camera, got this. Of course, the camera's in night vision, so you're not really seeing much.
For maximum spookiness, too.
Gosh, and this thing is like huge. So I'm going down this hall. I'm like halfway down this hall, and all of a sudden, like my little detector just like, weep, going nuts. And there's nothing by me. There's nothing near me. I'm by myself in a haunted prison. And I'm like all you could see, because I had the bracelet, for the video camera wrapped around my wrist. Thank God, because you just see it drop and you hear me go, Nick! You can see my little feet.
Oh, wow.
So needless to say, we were hooked from there. And,
there you go.
That's crazy.
We started a team. It was called, I'm in Wheeling, West Virginia, so it was called the Wheeling Society of Paranormal Research.
Love it.
WSPR. So we got hooked up with this radio station that we used to play, whenever we had a big investigation, something like that, they would always have us come in to play the evidence we found.
Oh, amazing.
And then one day they were like, man, do you know anybody that would want to do a paranormal show? Like a psychic or something like that. I'm like, we'll do it.
Yeah.
And they're like, great, you start Wednesday.
Amazing.
We're like, what? We've never done this before.
That's the dream.
So, well, you say that having been behind a microphone.
Yeah.
So here's like two guys in their 20s that have never like done anything. And you're like, here, make this show. Like,
were they paying you? Was this like your full-time gig now?
No, you can do advertising sales if you want money. But whatever, we had fun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We called the show Whispers because WSPR, Wheeling Society of Paranormal Research. We thought it sounded cool.
I like it. I like it. I think it sounds cool now.
Well, thank you. And this was probably back in like 2008. So we started recording our shows and then podcasting it out. So podcasting was really new, at that time. Right. Podcasting only really got big and like really started in like 2004, 2005. Right. So like it was still very fresh. Like my cousin's a total nerd, so he knew exactly what it was. He was just like, just record it and put it online. I'm like, okay.
Right.
We had a huge following online. Like we ended up getting syndicated with the UFO Paranormal Radio Network,
Amazing.
UPRN, which is now United Public Radio Network. They changed the name to be a little more friendly. But we had like 45,000 people listening live. You know, we were broadcasting out, and then we'd have like 20,000 downloads a month. Like, we were living the dream with podcasting. And then
that's amazing.
Went away. I started having.
Sorry, go ahead.
I said I started having kids, so
yeah.
I was going to ask why it ended. It was kids.
Yeah, man, it's hard to have any kind of free time when you're having kids.
Yeah, for sure.
We got 4, so I got a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old.
How do the kids feel about the spooky stuff?
They're afraid of their own shadow. So they don't know. Like, they all wear my Fireside shirt. You know, it's got like the Bigfoot on it, but they don't know what that is. They just know, hey, that's Daddy's show.
That's a little. So you don't take them to like the haunted penitentiary or anything like that.
No. We got home and we live like on top of a mountain in the middle of the woods. Like, if you're gonna get creeped out by an area, like my house at night is creepy.
Go outside.
So like we came home one night and my son just like takes off running to the porch, and there was a raccoon on there, and the shrillest high-pitched scream. He's 7 years old, and his little feet screaming his head off. He was terrified. Like, the sun starts to go down and they're like, I'm not going outside by myself.
Smart move.
Yeah, right.
Don't need to. And also, I was doing a little bit of research for this show, and I feel like West Virginia itself is a pretty spooky region.
Oh my goodness, it's a hot spot.
Yeah.
You know, where I live, we're in the northern panhandle, so we're about 15 minutes to PA, 15 minutes to Ohio, and we're right on the Ohio River. You know, so much stuff. You got like Mothman, things like that all happened up and down the Ohio River. And man, we got Bigfoot sightings on each side of us. There's a lot of open woods, you know, and forest. A lot of stuff's happened. You know, and the mountains are old.
Yep.
Right.
And isn't there like a big cave system too that runs through like Kentucky, West Virginia?
Yeah.
Interesting. Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
Do you think there's something? Do you think that's what these old mountains? Do you think that's what it is? Do you think there's something about West Virginia that attracts all of these stories, or legends, for lack of a better word?
Well, I mean, even like in the area that I'm in, you know, when we talk of like Native American tribes, it's not like Cherokee and things like that. Like, the tribes that were here are over 2,000 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, and they had beliefs of seeing things, and this area in itself. What it is, I don't know. Is it ley lines? You know, is it age? Like, I really don't know what it is, but this whole area is spooky. West Virginia itself has so many stories.
Yeah, and there's actually a pretty significant kind of like witchcraft and like folk healing kind of tradition that gets mixed in with like the Native American beliefs and sort of the Dutch immigrants and all that stuff. Really fascinating.
Even into Christianity. So you'll have a lot of Christians, you know, you get into these back hollers, you know, in southern West Virginia, and all you had was yourself. I mean, there was no in, there was no out. A lot of people make jokes about the West Virginia and inbreeding and things like that. But you get down southern West Virginia and these back hollers back in the day, I mean, you had that big stretch of land that's all you knew, and there was no climbing out. You know what I mean? Those people were there. So they would have like the lady at the top of the hill that would be mixed in with some kind of witchcraft and, you know, healings, and that would be the person that everybody went to. So even with Christianity coming in, there was still a lot of the pagan traditions, you know, really bred in.
Yeah, and it seems like they've actually kind of interwoven into the Christian traditions as well. They kind of become one interesting mix. That's great. Have you encountered any of that stuff personally?
I mean, I have family that was mixed into all that, but that's distant relatives by now.
Yeah. I actually saw in your bio you actually have degrees in the Bible and theology. Is that right?
I do. Bible and theology. Yep.
That's amazing. How do you feel like that kind of interacts with and intersects with your show and your interest in the occult and the paranormal? Do you feel like there's a conflict there, or do you feel like they sort of meld together?
No, not really. I mean, you got to have a belief in the afterlife. I'm actually an ordained minister.
Oh, amazing.
Oh, wow.
To touch in that as well.
Yeah.
If you believe in ghosts, you believe in an afterlife, right? It's not just, oh my gosh, you must be a witch. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was a time where Jesus was walking on the water and everybody was like, a ghost. So, I mean, it even was alive in that time.
Right.
But also not every haunting is a spirit.
Sure.
You know what I mean? You have
For sure.
residual hauntings. And it could even be a situation like, let's talk about prisons, right? There's a lot of hard emotions in prisons. Rocks, stones, these all hold energy. You can say that's, mystical or whatever, but like your watch is quartz powered. You know what I mean?
Sure.
If you get a really expensive watch, the gears and everything have different jewels, inside of it. There's a lot of things. Your DVD players and things like that there's crystals.
Yeah, it is actually pretty amazing when you think about it, though.
Right?
Yeah.
It's incredible. So like these old prisons were built out of these stones. There's quartz in it. There's stuff going on. So let's say there's this guy who is just wrongly accused and, he did something bad and he spent every day just crying his eyes out. He does his 10 years. They're miserable for him, but he's out. Next guy comes into that same cell. This place is haunted.
Yeah.
Every night I lay down and all I hear is screaming and crying. Right?
Sure.
Well, it's not traditional, it's not the spirit. The guy's down in Florida with his toes in the sand drinking, some little drink with an umbrella.
I'm glad he got a happy ending that he's been.
Yeah, he's doing great. He got the Shawshank ending.
Yeah.
He was wrongly accused, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
So
he's in Sewataneo. Yeah.
Oh, he's still living in his mom's basement. He's still crying.
Yeah.
But I do think that's interesting, kind of thinking of those things as almost, Eric, we've talked about different planes and those, almost like some sort of ethereal tracing onto a different plane that sticks around.
I mean, even if you look at like tulpas, right? Where we create the hauntings with our minds. I've heard story before of an author, he stayed in this house and this is where he wrote all of his books. And, a lot of authors put their all into what they're writing. Mm-hmm. So there's a legend where, hey, these like urban legends that people have, hey, if you go up to this house and you click on your high beams and honk 3 times, right. You see this guy in the top window with a big hat on, so, it turns out the author that was up there is writing a story about a guy with a big hat, it's his main character, so it's something that's kind of created.
Yeah.
We did an episode about something that's a real thing called the Philip experiment, about a group that literally set out to do exactly that, basically create a tulpa through like weekly meetings and meditation on a thing, and some weird stuff started to happen. They started to get some very, very strange results. So I think there's definitely something interesting to that.
That's neat.
Yeah. So you've been on ghost tours, you've been on ghost hunts. Have you seen and experienced some crazy things yourself?
Oh yeah. My wife's over here going, oh yeah.
She's welcome to hop on if she wants.
Yeah.
Say hi.
Hi.
Hey.
I'm good. I like listening to you guys. It's fun. I don't have
Oh, good.
Nice.
She's the shy one.
Yeah.
No, but when you not all hauntings are spirits, but I mean there is something. And who's to say what it is? Do we know exactly, even in church and even Christians, we have our belief system on what it is, but we don't have it all ironed out on time. What is time to a spirit? We don't know these things. Nobody does. Everything that we do, as investigators is really testing theory, right? Because nobody knows. So, you do have experiences. I remember when I was younger living in a haunted house. Man, all kinds of crazy stuff used to happen in that place. We had always
back up. You were living in a haunted house?
Oh yeah. I mean, that kind of goes along with, I guess, Goosebumps.
I got you.
Yeah.
So the weird world news cutouts are on the wall of a haunted house.
Well, yeah. I mean, Bigfoot's not haunting my house.
We gotta hear about your haunted house.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm trying to think of which one. Okay, so there's two, right?
Oh hell yeah!
When I was younger, right? So I have little brothers that are younger than me. I got two little brothers that I was raised with. That the oldest of them is 10 years younger than me. So I was a teenager. They were babies, and
bringing spooky music in. No pressure.
That's not just in your mind. That's really happening.
So I was at a complete moment. I was like, I'm in a movie.
Yeah.
No, so this house was set right next to a graveyard, just a small, probably 10, gravestone graveyard. And man, there were times like the power would be out and the oven light, you can just, it was the old click ones. You had to push it in to click it on and off, and it would literally just click, 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 and the light coming on and off, and the power's out in the house. There was this is when mirror balls were cool. I don't know how old you guys were. I had one of those little mirror balls from Spencer's Gifts. I had that hanging up.
Are we talking about like a disco ball, like a reflective? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because that's how you know you're cool, Eric.
Yeah, that and a waterbed.
That's. Listen. Of that stuff came back in the 90s. Yeah.
It all comes back around.
This is what's really, really funny. I had a waterbed in that bedroom too.
And a lava lamp.
You
I'm
did,
sure.
bud. Yeah, you did.
And then I had the alien with the Dr. Seuss hat poster.
Oh, incredible.
I was living the dream.
Wow. Just in a haunted house with the set of a 70s gigolo.
My wife's the lucky girl. Anyway, back to the story. We got to do this music. All right, so like the mirror ball would like wave back and forth like all the time. Like it wouldn't be turned on or anything like that. It would just consistently rock. There were times when I was laying in the waterbed and like it would just start shaking.
Oh, that's
man.
crazy.
Which is pretty freaky as a teenager.
Yeah.
I was probably like 15 years old. And then there was a time we were redoing the nursery. We're repainting the toy room and all that. So we had all the toys. We put it into my little brother's bedroom as we were repainting the toy room. And then all of a sudden you would hear, no, my blankie, my blankie. And, you crack the door open and he's standing up like pulling his blanket with somebody. No, my blankie.
Get out of here.
And you open the door and he like falls down with it. Here, it's going to go a step farther. So my mom grabs him, right? Goes back into her room, and it's like you got to walk around the whole house to get to her room, but they share a wall, kind of like a horseshoe. So they're laying in bed, and my little brother goes, "Night, baby. Night, baby. Mommy, say night to the baby," and starts waving and just slowly turns his head to the wall between their bedrooms.
No.
I don't like that. I don't even know. Night, what do you, Jordan? You're a parent. What do you even do if your kid comes in with that kind of I feel like you ground that. Like they're in trouble now. You brought a ghost into my room.
We moved.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you have a brother. How did your family feel? Or do they agree it was haunted? Is that just your theory?
So my mom ended up going to a psychic, right? And as soon as she goes in, the lady says, "Wow, what's going on with your house?"
Oh, man.
My mom's like, "Tell me more." She wasn't giving anything.
Yeah.
She's like, there's a graveyard next to your house, and there's actually a tree kind of off to the side, and there are 3 fallen tombstones that are there, and there are 3 kids, gave the ages, right? They were young. She says, those are the ones that are in your house.
Shut up.
There was like a 12-year-old, a 7-year-old, and like a 3 or 4-year-old. And said, that's who's in your house. So my mom's like, okay. She's like, now you do have a son that likes to camp, right? Me. They love when your son camps out in the yard. They like to stay in there with
God.
No, hate that.
Don't like that. That's why I never go camping. That's why I stay inside.
Guess who stopped? yep, this guy.
Wow.
So, yeah, and we actually went out to the tree, or the tree that was out there, and there were gravestones out there. So we moved.
Yeah, I don't blame you. That's because I feel like that's the thing you always see in horror movies is a house, is a family in like a haunted house, and it's like, just move, just leave for the love of everything.
Yeah, I mean, if you're paying rent in this place, you can easily just pay rent in another.
Yeah,
there's nothing really keeping you there.
That's right. That's interesting. Wow. So So the new place you moved to, any more ghosts?
No. Hold on, I got to think of where we moved around a lot as a kid.
Yeah,
My wife just reminded me of one, and this is when I was even younger, right? So that was my teenage years. I was younger. We were living in this house, and man, there was all kinds of crazy. Maybe there was a lot. Maybe this stuff's been going on for a while. You're like my therapy right now.
Hell yeah.
Unloading all.
Eric, maybe that's our new angle. We do ghost therapy.
Yeah, we're spooky therapy.
We don't have anything to offer, just like, interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. That sounds like a ghost.
And why do you hate your mother?
Yeah.
So we were at this house, and we were younger. I was probably 8, 9, 10 years old. Buffy the Vampire Slayer came out.
Hell yeah.
No, great movie. Yeah.
So it was the movie. So there was a time, I was little, and I remember watching a hand come out of the bathroom, like the shower, and like pull the curtain back.
I hate that.
It freaked me out, right? And you would always hear like a basketball bouncing. The place had a basement. You would always hear a basketball bouncing in the basement. Of course, you go down there and there's nothing there. Well, we had a neighbor come by after we'd been there about a month, and my mom opens the door and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you look just like her." And Mom was like, "Excuse me?" Like, "Yeah, the wife of the guy who used to live here."
No.
And she's like, "Oh my gosh," but she moved away. The guy had cancer, and he was in a lot of pain, and he would go downstairs and bounce a basketball to relieve his pain. Like, that was how he would take his mind off of it. And he hung himself in the basement.
Holy shit.
Wow. No.
Yeah, we moved from there. Bueno. We moved from there.
Wow.
And then there was another one. You ready?
I'm ready.
I was ready. I somehow, I forgot about that one.
Well, I guess when you have a bunch, it's easy to forget some fucked up stuff,
like,
man.
Which haunting are you talking about here? Which one? No, we lived in Delaware for a little, in Smyrna, colonial Smyrna. And it was this like little duplex house. And, I already told you my little brother had always kind of seen things. So we were in this place. I never really liked the house. The house was like, it was colonial. Okay. So the house was really old. You go downstairs and it's like going back in time. The insulation is like clothes and old newspaper and things like that. It was part of the Underground Railroad.
Oh, wow.
There was a section in the basement that was bricked over, and that was part of the tunnel system. Right. So my little brother, he was looking like real pale and scared and all that kind of stuff. And, we always felt kind of creeped out in that house. And, my mom's just, she's like, "Hey, come here. Do you see things that we don't see?" And he just kind of like, "What?" Like, "It's okay. Is there something you see?" And all of a sudden he just starts crying. "Yeah, Mommy, I see him. There's this man, and it, like, part of his face is messed up, and he comes into my bedroom, and he's in the hallway, and he likes to stay in Jordan's room."
Boy, oh boy.
So we started doing a little research, right? Right across the street was it was called the Colonial Hotel. Just like little tiny, this is like, doesn't look like a hotel. It looks like just a building, but it's old. So apparently there was a biker gang in that area that had like a big shootout, and a lot of folks died. Well, one guy got shot and meandered into our house, and that's where he passed away.
Whoa. That's buck wild.
What is it? You think it's just something about a violent or dramatic death, or particularly emotional death, where the spirit or the entity or the soul of that person gets kind of like stuck in the
there's got to be something, and it goes back to the residual, right? Right? You know, so who's to say that's really the guy's spirit and not just the impression that was left?
Yeah, like a recording.
So traumatic, and it just stuck in that area. Right?
Do you think it's? Am I mistaken? Was that 2 different houses, 3 different houses?
There's 3 different houses.
Do you think
I moved from there to West Virginia? Then it's been all sunshine and rainbows, believe it or not,
Got it.
because everything else is so haunted. We're good.
Yeah, just the Mothman. But other than that,
yeah. But do you think that there is something about you, about your family that attracted that? Do you think that's going on everywhere, and you're maybe just more sensitive to it? Your family was more sensitive to it. Why do you think you have so many more distinct experiences than a lot of people might claim?
You know, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, right?
I mean, we all might be crazy. But
yeah, I don't think I ever really told anybody most of those stories. So, you know,
we got the exclusives,
right? But, you know, I think that things are hereditary. You know,
Sure.
I think that people can be sensitive, and I think that runs in family lines. Man, I don't know. Maybe sometimes people are just more open to it. Can you go check and see down that hallway, please? Sorry, I know my kids are asleep down the hall, but the light in the hallway just turned on, and all my kids are supposed to be in bed.
Rookie mistake.
Right? It is every time.
If nothing else, they should get in trouble for turning on the light. That's a you don't turn on the light when you're
sneak around better.
Yeah, very foolish.
I don't let them watch any kind of movies that's going to make them think harder.
Yeah. Smart.
How do you catch me every time? I don't know.
So yeah, not sure. It's that intuition. So are you still involved? Are you still doing a lot of like ghost hunting and stuff now actively?
I haven't in probably about 10 years.
Oh wow.
You know, I stopped, you know, when I stopped doing the radio show, we moved down to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and I did the show for a little bit there, you know, kind of on my own, and just moving out, you know, kind of away from the team, got married, had kids, you know, that kind of stuff. Not a lot of time to go out and do any extras. You know, people love hearing stories. So I had plenty of stories to tell people with, you know, however many years I did the show.
Right.
When I moved back, so I lived in South Carolina for a bit. I moved out to Texas, and then I moved back here to West Virginia. And then, you know, when I moved back here, that's when they were like, hey, you should start a show up, you know, again. You try it out. So that's where Fireside came from. But COVID and things like that, not really trying to delve out and do more. That I'm lazy.
That makes sense.
Yeah. No, it's hard. It's a lot of effort. I mean, I guess I was asking that to sort of get into, because we've like dabbled, I guess, in ghost hunting. We bought a little ghost box, but really have no idea what we're doing at all, and kind of like wander around and nothing really happens. But yeah, I'm wondering, like, what are you looking for when you're out there? What's the deal with the art and science of ghost hunting and these investigations?
Well, when we did it, it was more of like almost like a ministry, you know, if you want to take it that way. We had a lot of folks that were just scared in their house. You know, I'm a church boy. So they're scared in their house. Hey, let me go in there with some of my stuff, with some of the stuff that I know what's going on, and let's see if we can, you know, debunk it, right?
Yeah.
Hey, that's, you know, you got mice. That's what all that noise is. You know, you got loud pipes. Hey, your bed is right next to the fuse box. There's a lot of radiation coming, all that.
Yeah.
Move your bed to the other side of the room and see if your nightmares go away. You know, things like that. But through that, we had a lot of church people, some leaders in churches reaching out to us. Hey, you know, we don't want to tell, you know, this person. We don't want to tell the congregation, you know, pastors coming to us. Hey, this is going on. Can you just check it out? So we really looked at it like a ministry, just because who else do they have? You know, somebody's scared. I'm like, here's me, you know, I'm gonna. So yeah, that's kind of how it all started with the investigations. So really what we were looking for is nothing. We wanted to make sure nothing was there. So we would have recorders set up. We would have, you know, cameras rolling. The ultimate goal was to let them be able to sleep at night.
Right.
You know, so we felt it was a win if we can be like, ha, got it. Here it is. You know.
What was the rate of nothing to weird?
more often than not, it was something we could prove away. But we definitely had some stuff we couldn't.
Interesting.
There was a college here local. I won't give any names. It's a university now. See what I did there?
Yeah, pretty good.
So it was actually they have campus security. The sheriff's department is there, and they reached out to the dean, and they were like, "Hey, there's a lot of really crazy stuff going on in our building. Can we get it checked out?" So they actually called us for it was a college, right? And here we are, ghost hunters. Yeah. And we had to sit in this big boardroom with like the dean and all these like lawyers and sign this paperwork that we'll never tell.
Wow.
Wow.
We had to do it when all the students were off campus. It was like the only people in this entire college were like the 4 or 5 of us and the sheriff deputy, right? Who's there. And he was like showing us around and telling us where stuff happens.
Wow.
And then,
what kind of stuff were they experiencing?
They were just hearing noises up and down the hall, things like that. They're like, yeah, toilets flush and this happens and that. We're like, okay, well, we'll check it out, right?
Yeah.
So half thinking they were serious, half not. Like, it was pretty neat. Well, we did this. We'd always check like the baseline. So there'd be like an hour in the investigation where we have cameras and recorders running everywhere for like an hour. And we would like separate ourselves. So all of us with the cop were sitting out. I think we got like pizza. We just hanging out in the parking lot. Well, like when we went through the evidence, that hour was probably the most active hour anywhere of any recording that I've had. Like in the bathroom, you would hear stall doors slamming, footsteps, water would turn on and off, right? Because one of the things with water, faucets will turn on from water pressure, but they don't turn back off. Like the water would turn on and turn off. You would hear noises. You would hear what sounds like screaming. So much stuff.
Wow.
Right. And it was like a ridiculous amount of time. Like it wasn't just like a 3 seconds.
Right.
We're like, that is horrifying. Right. And it was like not even like the fun part. It's not even like a dorm. It was like the office building. Who knows what it's an old building. So like who knows?
Super lame ghosts. They could be haunting co-eds and they're just like hanging out with the accountants.
Like they've never watched a scary movie at all.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Or Porky's or anything.
Interesting. So what happens like after you gather like some weird stuff, and I'm assuming maybe the university was hoping you wouldn't find anything.
So we packaged it all together because there were lawyers involved, right? So we had like binders and portfolio. It's as much as my 20-some-year-old brain can try to what do smart people do, right? So I'm like putting together
binders,
this whole packet and letterheads.
Yeah.
We put all the stuff on CDs. We write out everything we hear. We turn it in, right? And that was that. So what's really funny is maybe 4 months later, one of the dorms, they got to pick their own activities and they wanted to do a ghost hunt. And the college was like, there's only one group that we allow on our property.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So we went from being sworn to secrecy to, hey,
let me exclusive ghost guys.
So here we are like, yeah, follow me to this area of the college that I've never seen. Let me show you how to do it.
Do you know if they did anything about it? Like, what was or is just accepting like, yeah, weird stuff happens in the office building of this?
That's probably where it ended.
Yeah, wow.
Like, nobody ever speaks of this again.
Wow. Just a super angry dean. You were supposed to find no ghosts.
It's locked in a safe somewhere.
Yeah.
I'll shut down Jordan's ghost frat. I'll shut it down real
good. Exactly.
Oh man, that's crazy.
And this is a cool one. This was in downtown Wheeling, in the Victorian section, and Wheeling is right on the Ohio River, so like a lot of stuff happens there. But this area, there was like Native American battles. It's horrible, but like slave auctions and things there was a lot of really nasty stuff that happened here during the day or back in the day. So this house was on the Victorian section, right on the water, and it's a museum kind of now, just set up, hey, you can go through it and look and see what an old mansion would look like. And they were having some things going on. They were like, yeah, come check it out. You know, it wasn't a house and nobody was scared. It was purely, hey, come and check it out. So we set up recorders. We're doing stuff. Really active place, right? Nothing that like the legends say that was going on there, but there was a lot of stuff going on. And at one point, we had recorders set up. It was like a 3-story place. We had recorders like on each side of the house on all 3 levels, right? And we were going through it, and usually like EVP, you just like record, it's silent, you play it back. They're like, hi, Eric, how are you? Well, this one was audible. It sounded like a little kid singing. And we were out there. We're like, all right. Because we didn't bring any little kids, right? So we're like going up and we're like chasing the sound. We're going, and you know, it's almost taunting, right?
Oh, man.
And we caught it all on tape. All the audio for that. I have it on YouTube. I'll send you guys links.
We'll throw the link up on our blog.
There's let me see. There's one that's like, he, come find me.
No.
There's one, and that was like on the 3rd floor. In the kitchen area that was like the 1st floor, you would hear it almost sounded like the kids screaming, stop, 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 right? Well, on the recorder that was on the other side of that house, like this was all EVP, right? This part wasn't audible. So you hear like, stop, stop, stop. And then on the recorder that was in the other side of that house on that floor, faintly in the background, you hear stop, stop, stop. But then you hear what sounds like a Native American, like, you know, like a
oh my God.
Wow.
So it's like, what happened here?
Right.
You know?
Oh my God.
That's wild.
So that place was pretty wild. And I have all that. Like I said, I have three of those audio clips on YouTube. I'll send them to you guys.
It sounds like you've assembled a pretty good amount of evidence of some of this stuff.
Well, the number of investigations I did, it's
yeah. I just mean I'm kind of coming at it from the angles like sometimes, you know, we talk to everybody and we talk to sort of everybody in whatever spectrum of belief, from total skeptic to like real true, like super into a true believer. And I feel like one of the skeptical rebuttals is always like, okay, if this stuff is real, everybody has iPhones, everybody's got like a recorder in their pocket. Where's all the actual evidence? But it sounds like you literally have some.
So with your recorder in your pocket, have you ever sat and recorded into empty silence and said, hey, is there anybody here?
I can't say we've tried that.
Oh,
no.
Well, I mean, how are you going to get, you can't win the lottery if you don't buy a ticket.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
That's true.
So everybody's got recorders, but not everybody's searching, you know?
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. I think that's
Hold
right.
on, Eric. Let's see what you got.
I'm too afraid. I'm actually too afraid.
Okay. All right.
Well, I'd never do my own house ever.
Yeah.
Absolutely no way whatsoever. I am not turning you're not going to have a recorder on in my house. The closest is this microphone right here. Yeah. And then like, I don't even like listen to all the audio to edit my shows. Like I just write down like where the big gaps are because I don't want to hear anything in the background.
Are you ever, speaking of that, are you ever afraid of like, I don't know, a negative interaction, something attaching itself to you in some way, be like just messing with something that
Eric, I'm a chicken.
Yeah, me too.
I'm afraid of everything.
Yeah.
No, sometimes, yeah. I mean, we would always pray before going into an investigation, then pray, you know, going out. I don't feel like anything is going to attach itself to me. Now, it can attach itself to objects. Okay. So I got two stories, right, that I want to tell you.
Wonderful.
One, you guys, I'm going to give you all my good stuff. You're never going to have me back because I have nothing else to
any day of the week. We'll just do this again.
No, I was given one time, it was like a serving tray from the Queen Mary.
Okay.
You know, that out in California that had the fires. One of the most wonderful places. I was gifted a tray, you know. I'm like, wow, cool. What am I going to, you know, I live in this tiny little apartment. I'm going to stick it up on the fridge. You know, so not like on the fridge with a magnet, like just kind of up on top. So my wife, who was not my wife at the time, would come and visit, and she'd always be like, man, and she's pretty sensitive to things. She's like, I always get this creepy feeling, like in the kitchen area. You know, I don't like it. And I'm like, because
Yeah.
you know, I'm not admitting to anything because I'm not. It's my house, and there's nothing happening in my house. Right? I've moved past that. I'm an adult now. Yeah. Well, when we were moving from that place, she's like, "Yeah, this isn't coming with us." Because I was like, "Well, I do have this." She's like, "What?" She didn't even know I had the thing. So we threw it away. She threw it away. No museum, no nothing. Here's this big thing from like one of the most haunted ships. She puts it in the trash. She's like, "It's gone." And then it stopped.
Man. Wow.
Super
weird. Hold on. She wants to say something.
Oh, hell yeah.
Nice.
I threw it away because I saw a little girl with a burned face before I ever knew about this tray. I had no idea.
Get out of here.
Oh, I swear. I had no idea about this thing. This was like, he and I had just recently started dating, and he worked midnight shift at, I don't even remember at this point what it was, but he worked midnight shift. So I came over to visit him one day, and he was asleep in bed, and I saw a little girl with a burned face leaning over him.
No.
And then after I tell him this, he's like, "Oh, well, here's this." And I'm like, "No, it's not coming with us."
Here's this haunted artifact.
Oh, the bird lady from this?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
This little serving tray.
I feel like you guys are just living out a super dark rom-com, just bonded by a terrifying visage.
And like, I feel like this is just a highlight reel because 99% of my life is not like this at all. But it's like, well, I mean,
that's good.
Have some things, you know, there are some, you know, when you add them all together, it is pretty crazy. But there was one investigation we did, and same little brother, right? That saw things. He's a teenager at this point, or close to being a teenager, and he was wanting a bird, right? So we did this investigation. You know, they were seeing like some people. The little kid was seeing some people in his house, and just all freaked out. We didn't really catch anything, but they had a lot of stories of things they were dealing with. We're like, okay, well, like keep us updated. You know, we'll come back out. Well, they're like, hey, you know, we're getting rid of this bird cage. You know, if you know anybody that wants one, it was this little parakeet cage. I was like, okay. So I grabbed it and I bought a little parakeet and gave it to my little brother because you always take something from a haunted location.
Cage is haunted, ain't it?
Listen, okay, so it can attack.
What happened to the bird, Jordan? What happened to the bird?
You know, what happened was my little brother, he came down. He's like, I don't know what it is, but I just keep thinking about like suicide.
Oh my God.
Yikes.
Right? It got real heavy real quick. And I'm like, what the heck? And he's like the most happy-go-lucky kid. And I'm like, I think it's time that we find a new bird cage.
Yeah.
And then we got rid of it and everything went away. He was fine. So,
man,
never take anything from a location that's haunted. Not even a rock.
Not.
Yeah,
not even
probably,
a rock. Not.
Probably not.
Nobody wants a haunted rock.
Nobody wants a haunted rock or a haunted bird cage. I do. I want both of those things.
Yeah, you definitely want both of those things. You'd put the haunted rock in the bird cage. 2 in 1.
What are you going to do now?
Fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
hey,
exactly.
Here's something for you. I did something 2 days ago. I recorded an author. His name is Chris Balzano, and he great show. In the Patreon part of our episode, he was talking about this cult in Florida. Then it was like the satanic cult. The guy like murdered a bunch of people. He was the cult leader. Ends up being a fan of his books.
Oh
right?
boy.
The cult leader is a fan of Chris's books.
Wow.
Writes him like this thing, draws him a picture, right? And the guy has the picture put up. So I'm thinking, and I'm going to ask you guys, right? If you did something and like this crazed maniac murderer draws you a picture, do you keep it?
Do they leave a 5-star review on our Apple podcast?
The only thing that matters.
Anything above a 3-star, well, yeah, probably.
I, in all earnestness, my morbidity would like keep it.
I think
right?
you need to do it.
Like, I feel bad about wanting,
right.
like, that's me. I was like, I would totally keep that. But like, how do you tactfully tell people what it is?
Right.
He's a satanic cult leader who murdered a bunch of people. But it's a picture of a bunny.
Yeah, but he did it. He did it for me. He took the time to do it for me. He wasn't killing anybody when he did this. Probably.
Because he liked the show.
Yeah, he loves. He's a fan, like you. Like you could be a fan. You're not a fan. That's fine. But if you were, it would be like that.
Not killing anyone though.
Yeah.
It's just something that's been noodling around in my brain there for a little bit.
Yeah, that is.
Sorry, I was just going to ask Jordan, speaking of stuff like that, you have a guest-centered show. You've been in radio and podcasting for a long time. Have you had any sort of like kind of weird guest interactions or call-ins where you're like, whoa, we got a live one?
Dude. Laundry list.
Yeah.
Let's see. I had Mark and Debbie Constantino. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
No.
Not ringing a bell, no.
All right, well, through the whole show, and I mean, this was live radio, right? Because we would just record it and podcast it out. So it was live. We had a start time. We had commercials. Yeah. Good luck. We had a mute button, right?
We used to do that, and it was incredible.
So they are having some marital problems.
Okay.
And like on the air, they're like, leave me alone. I obviously don't do anything right for you, do I? Shut up, you know? And I'm like, just like, tell me more about your ghost hunts that you do, right? Tell me about the magazine you're making.
Can I say, though, that's great radio.
It was
that's incredible radio.
There was a turn, and it was murder-suicide. He ended up killing her and then killing himself.
On the air?
Not on the air. Not on the air. Not on the air. God, could you imagine the ratings?
That's
man,
insane.
But like, it was such an awkward interview.
Yeah.
But like afterwards, like when it happened, you're like,
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I see it.
Right.
Wow.
Oh man, that's fuck wild.
Let's see. There was, shoot. Huh? Oh yeah, I had this guy who was big into aliens, and I don't know, like I'm super private with my phone number and stuff like that. Even like when I do the show, I use Google Voice. Like there's no real connection. I try not to post pictures of my kids. You know, I'm pretty private.
Yeah.
So somehow this guy gets my cell phone number.
Oh no.
And he texts me and he's like, "Hey, I have this book. It's, you know, it's an alien book." I mean, it was a chill conversation. I was like, okay, you know, maybe like the producer sent him my number or something like that. You know, I want to come on. Perfect. So like within 3 minutes of him being on the air, he starts talking about like, you know, I was on a pier. I fell off this pier. And then I remember when the beings saved my life. You're like, oh, the beings, please do tell. He's like, oh yeah, I was beamed aboard the mothership, and I remember these people because I was with them before being beamed into my mother's womb. And I'm like,
okay,
right? And the whole show was just very interesting.
It's that,
like, I'm not going to say it's not interesting because I'd love to have more guests like that just to listen,
right?
But but like it was intense that this is what, at least because, you know, with my show, I always want it to be, everybody has a story, right?
Right.
Whether you believe it, I believe it, anybody believe it, this guy believes it. Right. So I want to have that like interaction, like you tell me your story, brother. And he did. And it was wild. Along the same vein, another person that got my number, he was a producer in Hollywood. Out in LA, and he was doing a movie with Jennifer Tilly, right?
Okay.
So awesome. And he called me up on my phone. I'm like, I got a movie producer calling me up on my phone. Like, I have
big time Jordan Cline.
Like, I don't want to brag or nothing, but come on, right? So we have to reschedule him, right? And like when I get him on, and he's like, oh, I'm so glad we rescheduled because so much has happened. Like, Sylvia Brown is calling this a vortex. His set is a vortex, and there's so much going on. And that's how it started. And that's what we wanted to talk about. You know, it was being haunted by the silent film actor. Well, in the few months that we had to reschedule, he was now in a full-time relationship with this ghost, and like they loved each other. And I mean, he was going.
So when you say relationship, you mean? Woo! Wow.
That's kind of the dream now.
Eric, Jack, what kind of dreams you having, bud?
Ghost sex dreams, Brian. Just having sex with ghosts in my dreams. That's the whole, yeah.
That's
There's a lid for every pot. Right?
Jordan, pray for me. Please,
you, brother.
Throw me in the queue. Thank you.
Was that the extent of it? Was there?
Oh no, it was like an hour. It was so I don't want to say like radio gold, right? But it was so interesting, right?
Yeah.
That because my show was at night. I woke up the next morning and I turned my radio on, and the morning show was playing our show in its entirety.
Get out of here.
With call-ins. So,
oh my God.
They're like, yeah, like keep doing more of that. I'm like,
that's amazing.
That's incredible.
There's another one that took like a downhill turn. A guy named Drew Maris.
Uh-huh.
He was out west, and he was talking about like the end of the world and vortexes. Just a real intense guy.
What you said vortex before too. When we say vortex, what do we mean?
Think of like the thinning of the veil, that kind of thing.
Okay,
portal.
Gotcha.
Kind of what they call now as portals. What they used to call them as vortex.
Sure.
So he's getting into detail with all this. Well, like, shoot, maybe like a year later, I get a phone call from a news agency in I think it was like ABC or something in Phoenix, Arizona, and they're like, "Hey, you had this guy Drew on your show, right?" And I'm like, "Let me look it up." I have somebody on every week. I don't remember everybody's name, and they're like, "Okay, well, call me back when you find it." All right, fair enough. So I look at it. I call them. I'm like, "Yeah, I had him on. This is the date I had him on." They're like, "Hey, can we use clips from your show on one of our thing?" I'm like, "Okay." The dude ends up like killing a few people and then dies in a shootout with the police out in Arizona.
Holy mackerel.
Right? And I'm like, surely I'm not the last person to talk to this guy, because it was like a year later.
Right.
But like they were using clips of the show and everything on the news. I'm like, ugh.
Oh, man.
Like publicity, but not that kind.
Yeah, right. Oh, man. That's... Oh, the adventures in paranormal radio, huh?
You never know what you're going to get, right?
Jordan Cline, Fireside Paranormal. We are unfortunately just about out of time, but Eric, did you have any like final thoughts? Anything you wanted to hit on?
No, I was just going to say I really love your show's tagline, at least according to your website, which is "Don't be afraid, only believe."
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Could you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually in the Bible. It's in the Bible. There was, and it doesn't really have to do with ghosts. There's a story. I believe it's Mark and Luke, where there's somebody in the temple that's trying to get Jesus' attention, and the Pharisees are like, don't bother him. He's like, well, my daughter's really sick. She's dying. I need your help. And they're going nuts. And they're like, you need to stop talking to Jesus because Jesus is busy. And Jesus looks at him. He says, don't be afraid. Only believe that she's going to get better. And turns out after the time he had in the synagogue, went out and she was healed. He went and healed her.
Interesting.
So that don't be afraid, only believe. And it kind of ties back into spirits and everything else. Like,
I like that a lot.
Only believe.
Yeah, it's a great message.
Jordan, this has been so much fun. Where can people find your show?
All the major, podcast realms. So Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Google,
wonderful,
Samsung, everywhere. If you could, I want to plug this. My Facebook group is Fireside Paranormal Hub. It's really active. We got a lot of folks on there from all walks of paranormal life. We have paranormal magazine editors on there. We have people that have been on, all the paranormal TV shows, things like that. Like leaders in their field in the paranormal are all there hanging out and chatting. So it's a great place to network and get to know people. All of Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all that, I'm on there. But if I can plug my Patreon, trying to get that just to help, support the show. Patreon.com/Fireside Paranormal. All kinds of fun stuff with the tier levels. So if anybody wants to check it out, I sure would love you a whole bunch.
Yeah, guys, check out Jordan's Patreon.
Check out Jordan's Patreon.
Check it out. Check it out.
Jordan, thank you so much again. Eric, you ready to get out of here?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
And that's going to do it for us tonight here on Brian and Eric Don't Belong Here. Hey, looking to help the show out? Check us out on Twitter at Brian and Eric Pod. And hey, maybe leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or a comment on YouTube. We definitely appreciate it, and we read everything. Thank you so much for listening. For both of us here at Brian and Eric Don't Belong Here, stay safe out there. Good night.